Hello all, welcome to our channel, where we bring you the most entertaining, intriguing, and thought-provoking tales from the vast world of Reddit. Today we are going to dive deep into 3 stories. So let's begin. Story number 1. Am I the A-word for kicking my wife out after she punched my mom in the face? My situation went from bad to worse in a matter of a week and I don't know where else to turn. I need to know if I was wrong. Possibly a validation thing because life is fucking dumb right now. My wife and I have been together for 8 years and she just gave birth to our first, and last, baby 2 months ago. Up until my wife got pregnant, my mom loved her. I'm not sure WTF is wrong with my mom or why the switch happened, but after my wife got pregnant, my mom started being very clingy to me and started avoiding my wife at all costs. Told everyone she wasn't excited about the pregnancy, etc. I threatened to go no contact with her when my wife was about 7 months along, and after that she snapped out of it for the most part and stopped being so ignorant. The comments 100% stopped, at least. Though she still was clinging to me. Now, a week ago my mom, my sister's husband and my sister's daughter, 12, came over for dinner. I prepared the meal. Before my wife could eat anything, our daughter got fussy, so my wife excused herself to go feed the baby and get her down to sleep. I thought I prepared enough, but apparently not, because my niece was still starving. She's 5 feet 5 inches and 190 pounds. I haven't seen her in a year and she was not that size then, so I didn't exactly portion in an extra 3 helpings for a child, so it's on me. I apologized and told her that I hadn't made any more and offered her crackers, as I was putting my wife's portion in the fridge. After that, I just went outside with my sister's husband to smoke a cigarette and shoot the breeze. Didn't think anything of it. But then I hear yelling from inside. When I walk in, my wife and my mom were screaming at each other. Apparently my mom, who saw me put my wife's food away, gave my niece my wife's portion of food. As I was walking inside, I heard my mom say, "Looks like you can afford to skip a meal," and slapped my wife's stomach. Right as soon as I get ready to step in, literally fast walking toward them yelling, "Enough," my wife wins back and punches my mother square in the face and drops her. The whole house went silent outside of my mom crying and holding her face. I tell everyone to get the fuck out. Immediately everyone leaves and my wife just turns toward the counter and leans with her hands on the counter and face down, eyes closed. I look at my wife and say, "You too, leave, now." She says, "Really?" She's crying at this point. I say a clipped, "Yup." She packs up her and the baby and leaves. I text her that night and say I just need space. I need to decompress and come to terms with what just happened. She doesn't respond. The next 5 days I'm texting and calling and I get nothing. She shows up here today, so 8 days later, and hands me divorce paperwork and my baby and says, "Here, you have a bit to hang out with her while I pack. Where I'm breastfeeding we can work out a visitation schedule that is either at your place or my mother's until she will take a bottle." I told her that's not what I want. I don't want to separate. I just needed time to process her punching my mother in the face. She said, "You needing time to process gave me time to process the fact that I refuse to be in this situation any longer." I defended myself. "I initially felt bad and remorseful, but you making me leave when I needed you made me see more clear. I'm done. I'm sorry for what I did, but there's no fixing this." She refused to speak to me at all the rest of the time that she was here. My house feels so empty and I don't know what to do. AITA for making her leave after she punched my mom. I just needed some fucking space. Edit 1, for the record, I am team wife. My mom deserved it, wholeheartedly, and I've blocked her completely from my life. I literally just needed time to process what happened. My wife is a lot of things, violent is not one of them. So this came completely out of left field and would not have happened without her being provoked. After it all happened, my mom sent me a text saying, "See? I told you she was crazy. That fat bitch doesn't belong in our life." I'm willing to bet she purposely tried setting my wife off. So no, I'm on my wife's side 100%. I truly just needed to process what happened, and my wife took it as me giving up on her, not defending her and throwing her and our baby out, which did essentially happen because I knew she had to take the baby with her when I kicked her out. Edit 2, the reason why my dad was stupid abusive. I was beat. My sister and brother were beaten. My mom was put in the hospital multiple times. It took years for police to enforce restraining orders, and he finally died in 2013. Violence scares the fuck out of me. I calm down and get anxious around violence of any kind now. My wife knows this, and she too grew up with a violent dad, stepdad, and she gets just as anxious and panicky around violence. Her punching my mom in the face triggered an anxious response, and I needed her gone at that moment. I needed it far away from me. I don't know why I didn't just leave. I could have. But in that moment I just let my emotions and fear run the whole fucking circus and told everyone to get out, her included. My mom slapped her first. I guess for some reason I was seeing my wife's punch as being worse than the slap. It wasn't a hard slap, but my wife did kind of wince, looking back on it now. She was fine following, but my mom was bleeding. Split her eyebrow open in good shape. Ick. So now, let's move forward to story number 2. Am I the A word for wanting to postpone the wedding with my fiancée because she tested me with a fake miscarriage? I, 26M, have been dating my fiancée Vivian, 28F, for 5 years, and we found out she was pregnant shortly after I proposed. We were both ecstatic about it, even though it wasn't planned. Vivian's parents were a bit upset that I got their daughter pregnant without being married to her, but having a wedding during her pregnancy seemed to calm them. They're Christians, but not the evangelical types who shove religion down people's throat. She's currently 13 weeks pregnant, and 4 days ago, I had gotten off work, so I immediately headed home to our apartment. I saw her best friend, Carly, 29F, sitting on the couch looking upset, which is unlike her, so I asked if everything was okay and where Vivian was. Carly told me that she was in our main bathroom, so I headed over to it and noticed that Carly was following me, which I think was a little strange but brushed off. I knocked on the door and asked if I could come in, which Vivian said yes to. So I opened the door and saw my fiancée standing over the toilet with tears in her eyes when she looked at me. I immediately asked her what was wrong, and Vivian sniffled and told me that she miscarried, gesturing for me to look inside the toilet. I looked inside and the water was reddish, and there was a lump, what looked like to be a fetus, with a stray piece of bloody tissue sorta covering it. I averted my eyes after I saw it, and then started crying. I was genuinely sobbing, which I haven't done since Vivian revealed that she was pregnant, but those were tears of joy. I grabbed my fiancée and hugged her tight, while crying into her shoulder. Eventually, I looked up and saw in the bathroom mirror that Carly was standing in doorway with her phone out like she was recording something or taking pictures. I let go of Vivian and asked Carly what the hell she was doing. Carly stammered and was going, while looking for an excuse. Eventually my fiancée fessed up and admitted that she didn't actually have a marriage and that it was a test to see how I would react if she actually lost our baby. I essentially short-circuited, unable to comprehend how the hell Vivian and Carly, despite us not being as close, could do something so outlandishly cruel to me. I snapped out of it when Vivian attempted to touch my cheek, and pushed her hands away. I didn't want to be near her or have her touch me at that moment. Carly and Vivian tried to stop me from leaving the bathroom, but I pushed past them so I could go to our bedroom. I haphazardly packed some clothes into an old bag and headed straight for the door after grabbing my keys. Vivian caught up with me at the door and tried to plead with me to stay and talk about what happened, but I told needed time away from her to process what happened. She didn't push for me to stay after that, but seemed disappointed about it. I ended up staying with a buddy of mine, Josh, 26M, who told me that I could stay as long as I wanted once I told him what happened and commented how fucked that was up for Vivian to do to me. I'll admit I was being childish and dodged Vivian's texts and calls except for let her know that I was safe over the next 2 days. Once I felt stable enough, I invited Vivian to talk. I won't get into everything we talked about, but the reason why Vivian decided to test me was that she was afraid that I didn't actually want the baby, and was caring for them because I had to in order to not be seen as a deadbeat. I said that I understood her fears, but I legitimately wanted to be a father to our baby. I ultimately decided to stay with Vivian, but on the condition that we postpone the wedding until after the baby was born and we did couples counseling. Vivian said okay and left my friend's apartment. I honestly assumed that was that, and I was going to go home soon after that. Boy, was I wrong. An hour after Vivian left, I got messages from Carly harassing me about forcing Vivian to have a baby out of wedlock, since I know that's not what her parents want, while insulting me. It got so intense that I eventually blocked her. Honestly, I just want some unbiased, outsider perspective on this. Am I the A word for giving this condition to my fiancé? So now, let's move forward to story number 3. Am I the A word for telling my ex that his opinion on my daughter getting an abortion was worthless because he's a once-in-a-while dad? I, 38F, got pregnant young at 20 with my son Luke, 18M, and eloped with my ex-husband Jonah, 39M, due to it. Both of our parents were, and still are, deeply religious, so they didn't want any babies made out of wedlock if they could help it. Before anyone asks, I didn't baby trap him. He had an expired box of condoms, and unsurprisingly it broke. We got divorced shortly after I had my second baby Zoe, 13F, and Jonah fully wanted me to have full custody, since he wasted his youth looking after an accident baby, and only got visitation rights. Jonah hardly sees them more than twice a year in person, which he chooses to do, especially with his new girlfriend Claire, 25F, who seems extremely supportive of his decision to be barely involved in his kids' lives. I try to keep things civil for the kids, and keep any arguments between us away from them. I met and eventually got married to my husband Adam, 40M, 2 years later. Luke and Zoe love him and he adopted both of them. Zoe recently revealed to me and Adam that she had gotten raped by one of Luke's friends during the time we were put of town to visit my mother who had heart surgery. She provided proof since the friend managed to get her number and harass her about the rape, trying to make her keep quiet about it. Zoe only told us because she missed her period and was afraid she was pregnant. After a blood test and some deeply difficult and uncomfortable conversations, Zoe decided to abort the baby. We were keeping it strictly inside the family for Zoe's sake, and I decided to tell Jonah because despite all of his faults, he's still her family. Once I explained to him what happened after he picked up the call, Jonah went off on me about making decisions about our daughter's body without him. Saying that it was his right as a parent to know these kind of things before they happened, I was disrespecting his role as a father, and many more things that I won't burden you with. Eventually, I just snapped and said, "Newsflash. Your opinion about her abortion is worthless since you're a once-in-a-while dad." I hung up on him after I said that. Jonah blew my phone up after that with texts about how inconsiderate and cruel I am. I eventually muted his number. Adam overheard it since he was in the bathroom of our bedroom, and agreed with what I said, but thinks I should apologize to keep the peace. Am I the A word? That's all for today, folks. Comment below your thoughts and subscribe for daily stories. See you tomorrow.